Okay, so welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are here today to talk about effective flipped classrooms. We thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We know this is a busy time of day for you and also a busy time of year. So we really appreciate you joining us. I see a lot of familiar faces of those who have been joining us in our past 3 webinars we did earlier this month and last month. So welcome back. And I see a couple of new names as well, and that's perfectly fine as well. We are glad to have you all. All right, so we have a couple of presenters today. I'm not truly presenting, I'm just kind of giving an introduction here, but my name is Janie Everett. I'm the Educational Technology Manager at WHRO Public Media. We also have Heidi Speece, an ELA teacher from Virtual Virginia. And we also have Janelle Kelly, science teacher from Mecklenburg County. And something I would like to know about Heidi and Janelle is that they are both eMediaVA ambassadors. So they are absolute experts in eMediaVA. And I know they're going to talk to you a little bit today about eMediaVA in the flipped classroom as well. And one thing that I would like to note right here, because it kind of feels like it fits, we currently have the applications open for eMediaVA ambassadors for the 22-23 school year. So if that's something that you're interested in, we're going to have the application link embedded in this slideshow, and you are definitely going to be receiving a copy of these slides today. I am also going to, well, Zoom is going to automatically email you all tomorrow, and thank you for attending. And the link will also be in that email that you receive tomorrow as well. So we're looking for a brand new set of ambassadors for next year. We're very excited. And even though WHRO is based in Norfolk, we're looking for ambassadors all throughout the state, all the way out west, all the way up north, everywhere. So if you're interested, please apply. This webinar today is hosted by WHRO, and like I said, we are based in Norfolk. We are owned by those 21 green ownership school divisions, and we provide all sorts of free resources to teachers all across Virginia, including eMediaVA, which we'll learn a little bit more about today. So we're here today to talk about the flipped classroom, and I'm sure this is a word that you have all heard quite a bit, especially over the past 2 years. But what exactly is a flipped classroom? A flipped classroom is where the students are learning the bulk of their content on their own virtually outside of that whole group class time. So when the students are in class with the teacher has a little more time freed up to work one-on-one or in small groups with the students, kind of assess where they're at with the information they have learned and see how they can further progress with that information. So as you can see from our little diagram up here, out of class, whether it's at home or just on their own time, students prepare to participate in class activities. They learn content virtually, and then during class, the students practice what they learned by applying those key concepts, and they're getting feedback from the teacher. And then students can check their understanding later on their own time with a variety of assessments. Why should we do this? Why should we invest in a flipped classroom? A couple of reasons. It gives us all flexibility. Students are learning at their own pace that they're comfortable with. And also we're promoting students to take responsibility for their own learning. It gives us as teachers more opportunity for rigor, promotes student collaboration virtually or in person, and it allows us educators to take advantage of millions of free online resources. Everything we show you today is going to interact nicely with your learning management system, whether it's Schoology Canvas or something else. And if you don't have an LMS, a learning management system, that's okay too. These tools can all be used independently on their own. So on that note, I'm going to stop sharing and I am going to hand it over to Janelle for the first half of our presentation. Janelle, you're muted, FYI.
Oops. Sorry, I forgot to hit that button. I hit everything else.
No problem.
Good afternoon. I am working on getting my screen shared. Here we go. Okay. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about eMedia Virginia. I am an ambassador this year, and it was all new to me at first, and a lot of information to take in when I first started. But as I moved on, I realized what a valuable asset that is to teachers. So what is eMediaVA and how do we use it? Right, eMediaVA is Virginia's premier digital media content library for Virginia teachers and students. eMediaVA delivers fully SOL correlated audio, video, and interactive media to every teacher and student in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And the best thing about it is free. So there are lots of resources out there that we can use in any subject area. And there's plenty of videos. A lot of these are sponsored by PBS. And they give the SOLs, the lesson plans, how it can correlate. It can cross-curricular. It gives you all kinds of information. So a lot of teachers are still unaware of eMediaVA. So trying to get the word out there as much as possible. I'm actually going to be presenting a training over the summer when we do some professional development for our county on this because I have found it very, very helpful over the last few months with working with this program. So it's a wonderful tool out there. So I recommend anybody to go in, check it out, create your account, browse it, and you will find lots of things there that you can use in your classroom. It's also really good to be able to assign to your students at home as well, especially the videos for them to watch and get familiar with different content area. They can do that on their own. So great resource out there for us. All right. With eMediaVA, it's 10,000 digital learning resources. We have 124,000 educator and student users already. And then we have 500 plus local, state, and national partner content providers. So it's growing, and I see it continuing to grow because the flipped classroom and learning at home is now a big thing, especially since COVID. It was out there before, but it's got more popular now. So I think it's going to continue to grow. All right, and with that being said, another platform that I tend to use a lot in my classroom with my students is Nearpod. And Nearpod is like most other platforms, it is free for a certain membership. And then of course you can pay extra to go, pro and go even further. But the free access for Nearpod is plenty to use. Students access a teacher's presentation through a code, and the teacher moves the class through the presentation. Students interact with the media as they go. So this can be done in the classroom, and it can also be done if you're teaching virtually and having the students on with you during that class time. So either way will work because they will get the code. You can share your screen, they get the code, and then they log in. So you can do it either way. I've actually used it both ways, in the classroom, and I've used it teaching virtually. Teachers can also opt for student pace mode, where the student controls the flow of the lesson. This mode is perfect for sub days, weather days, homework assignments, or independent work. Again, so it makes it great for a flipped classroom because the students, you can assign them a Nearpod and they can do the activities at home and then come back into the classroom, and you can do more of the group work and individual work from those assignments. There are 2 ways to launch the lesson and provide student feedback. You have a live lesson option. Teachers share a live lesson, students enter code, and the lesson is synced to all devices. So when you do this in the classroom, the students are seeing whatever you have on your screen as a teacher. So I usually mirror my computer to my smart board, and the students can see my live screen there, but they can also see it on their computer once they put the code in. So when you have lessons on there where they can enter in their responses to questions, they have Padlet, they have all kinds of things on there where they get to answer questions and give their feedback. And so they're seeing theirs on their screen, but then they can look at the screen, the big screen, and see everybody's post coming up. And also, when we do like the virtual classroom on Nearpod, there's lots of those on there. My favorite is the ocean. When I teach ecosystems and biomes, we get to go in the ocean and visit different oceans and different areas of the ocean. They look at it just as like if they were in the ocean. So it's ways that we can use, the interactive platform in order to show them something we can't actually go and see. The other option is a student-paced option. You share a lesson code for students to complete at their own time and pace in order to create more flexible and equitable remote teaching experience. So this is where it's very beneficial if you're teaching online or doing a flipped classroom, to where they can do it at their own pace, and you can assign those Nearpod lessons. This is an example of what the screen would look like. So the teacher view, this is the code that your students would get once you've logged in and picked which Nearpod you're using. They would enter this code, and then their screens would come up and show them the content. All right, and then I also have put in here some resources that you guys can click on and go into to kind of browse around and look. The eMediaVA, the free virtual learning Virginia. This is a Facebook group that we have where we can post things day to day, and we can chat back and forth with each other and give some very good insight to everybody that wants to join. So the free virtual learner VA is a Facebook page. You could apply to be an eMediaVA ambassador. Again, I've done that for this whole past school year, and it's a great opportunity. It's a great way to learn more about eMediaVA and kind of dive into it a little bit deeper. 10 ways to use Nearpod in the classroom. This gives you all of the tutorials that you would need to know how to use Nearpod and how to navigate through. And then Nearpod teacher resources is where you can go in and see the different activities that you can do. And like I said, there's lots. I teach 6th grade science, and I have found everything I've ever needed in Nearpod. So at least once a week or once every 2 weeks, we're on Nearpod doing something in the classroom. When we were teaching virtually, I used Nearpod a lot as well, and did that paced learning with the students, and they really loved it, and I found it very beneficial. So I hope these resources are good for you. I hope that you can utilize them and find ways to make them work for you and your students.
Awesome. We're going to switch over to Heidi now. And Heidi, go ahead and get your screen up. But while you're doing that, I'm just going to add that the eMediaVA site is getting a fun new revamp very, very soon. So whole new look, all of the same great resources that we're used to and that we're talking about today, but it's just going to have a fresh look and a much easier user-friendly interface. So definitely look out over the summer and fall, like when school starts up. We will definitely be sharing some webinars and trainings on that new eMediaVA look. So keep an eye out for those on our website. All right, Heidi, over to you.
All right. Well, my name's Heidi Speece, and I work with Virtual Virginia. And if you're not familiar with Virtual Virginia, it is an online education program that's run through the Department of Ed for the state of Virginia. And we do feed into a lot of schools and work with a lot of schools across the state. So we may be working with your school students if they are at home or doing partial online learning. And we're primarily set up in the flipped classroom format. So I wanted to share with you how we set up our classes and some tips that we've learned, sometimes the hard way, how to be successful in the flipped classroom. And then at the same time, I also wanted to share a tool with you called quizzes, if you're not familiar with that. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Kahoot and games such as that. But the neat thing about quizzes is it's a lot like Kahoot in that it has the game format. However, you can also set it up with slides as well. So you can do a lesson and the interactive at the same time. So we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, essentially. You'll all be getting a copy of this this presentation. And so the link that is here in the quizzes will be to the presentation that I'm about to show you, but it does expire on May 4th. And so that is something to keep in mind. There is an upgraded option you can purchase where you have unlimited access to it. Most of us at Virtual Virginia use the free option. We've never had it run out, even though they say it sometimes will run out. I've been using it for a year and have hundreds of quizzes, and it's still going for me. So that is one tool that we use. And what I'm going to do now is in the chat, put a link. So if you would like to join, or you can just simply watch on the screen, you can join the quizzes and kind of get the student feel for this if you're not familiar with this. And so what you're seeing right now is the teacher view of quizzes. And then you'll see your students pop up over here on the right. It just like with Nearpod and all of the other things, you can kick someone out if they're using inappropriate names, or you can assign names to them. So it does allow a lot of control in that way. All right, so we're going to start. Okay, so I'm going to be focusing on how to set up your LMS. And again, as Janie said, all of these tips can be used for whichever LMS you're using. We primarily use Canvas. And then I know a lot of schools may use Google Drive, Teams, Blackboard, but all of these tips would work for all of those. So the 4 tips that I'm going to go over today are: 1, determine a method of organization before you set up your learning platform. Number 2, anything you would say in person in an in-person classroom, write it in your LMS in the instructions. Number 3, add 1 interactive for each lesson. And number 4, add a stop page to the end of each lesson. And I'll explain more in detail as we go through. So the first one is determine how you want to organize from the beginning. And this can vary depending on your class. The way that we primarily have our English program set up with Virtual Virginia is we have them set up in modules, or they may be called units. Each module at the beginning will have the objectives for that module or that unit. And then we have labels for each of our lessons. So as you can see, the 801 Introduction to Analysis, all of the things underneath that are designed to help with the introduction to analysis. And even that we keep in the same order so the kids get used to it. They know that the first page is going to be an introduction. They know the next few pages are going to be content, like what they might read in a textbook. And then they know there will be a practice application. And then the assessment is an assignment. Sometimes that's a quiz, sometimes it's a discussion board, sometimes it's an activity that they have to do. So it varies, but we always try to keep it in the same order. And then the next unit is in the same order so that the kids aren't lost. Then this is probably the hardest part and the most time-consuming part, but it's a lot of work up front. But once you get it done, it's done for good, and that's the beauty of flipped learning. So I like to think of flipped learning as it's a file folder, and if you're in the in-person classroom, you may open up that file folder and have sheets of paper everywhere and know exactly what every single sheet of paper means because you're the teacher, you've been teaching it for years. The problem is if you just dump that file folder into your learning platform, the kids aren't going to know what to do with it. So you have to make sure that you're writing out just as anything you might say to them in person, that it's written down. So when they're reading it at home, it sounds like you're almost there talking to them. So we use a very conversational tone. You'll see, I'll show you a minute. We use some slang. We use exclamation points and all of that to try to make it feel like someone's actually talking to the student when they're sitting there reading it. And we also cite our sources, and we think this is really good practice so that the kids see, okay, my teacher's citing their sources, so that's a good thing to kind of keep in the back of their head. So the next slide I'm going to show you is this is just an example of the conversational tone. We have the wonderful world of annotations. Annotations is a big word that just means the notes or comments that you write in the margins or on a separate sheet of paper. And then if you continue on, you can see we have some things in all caps. You are annotating. It's as easy as that. So it's very conversational, very colloquial. We also try to keep the text to a minimum or divide it up with pictures, so it's not one solid giant wall of text when they open up their screens and read the page. And then at the bottom of each page, whether it's a picture or information that we use, we do cite our sources. And this is, again, just to model good behavior for our kids, but also to show them proper formatting as well. Now, the next activity I'm going to have you do is to draw a picture of how you're feeling right now. I will tell you, you have to really know your students if you're going to use this feature on quizzes. What we've been doing right now is the presentation mode, where the teacher has control of the slides and so forth. When I go to the draw, some children choose to be a little inappropriate, so you have to be careful. So I tend to use this sparingly, but it is a really good temperature check if you know your students and can monitor them well. So what I would like you to do, it should appear on your screen, is draw how you're feeling right now about the material. Okay, so, and then if you're watching on Zoom, you are seeing the teacher's view. And so what is happening, I know that Sherry has turned in her work. Yay. Hillary's still working on it. That's okay. Lynette's still working on it. That's okay. So you can see when it pops up. Now, this is the part where you have to be careful. I usually stop sharing right now, check to make sure the pictures are appropriate, and then I'll reshare my screen. But I'm assuming you all are appropriate. So in just a minute. Okay, so we have all of our lovely pictures you can see on here and so forth. And so if somebody did something inappropriate, you can take it off. So it's a fun little experience. All right, moving back to the presentation. Number 3, we try to add one interactive for each lesson. So remember, the kids are sitting at home, they are reading through the material and that. So it's good to have an interactive just to break things up and to check their understanding. Some of the things that we use for interactives are short quizzes or journal entries. These can be graded or not, totally up to you. Short videos with questions to answer. We typically say try to keep the videos no more than 6 minutes. Anything over 6 minutes in this crazy media world, the kids will zone out. So that's kind of our general rule of thumb. We sometimes put in a quizzes link that it's good for 2 weeks, so the kids can work on it and you can see on your end if they've actually done it or not. A Nearpod link you could do, and lots of other things as well. I'm sure you have other tools that you've used too. And then number 4, this is one that we actually do not use at Virtual Virginia, but we did use it at a school that I worked at during the pandemic when we were all online, and I found it incredibly helpful, and the kids did too. At the end of each lesson, I would just have a page that said, stop here, yay, you're done for the day. Go relax or something, because otherwise it can get to the point where the kids don't know where a lesson begins or ends. So whether it's like a little stop sign or something like that, I just found that really helpful to tell the kids, okay, lesson's over, think about, reflect on what you've done, And when you come to class, we'll talk about it more. So this is how we set up our learning management system. And then in the class with Virtual Virginia, we meet with our students 30 minutes a day. And during that time, we focus that time on key things we think they may need extra reinforcement on, maybe reviews, question and answer, if they don't understand something, or if there's something that we don't feel is going to really relate very well in the online environment that would be better for someone to talk about, then we use that there. So final one, this is a second to last one. Can you think of any other tips? And I'll switch over so you can see the student view. So the teacher view. So as a teacher, I can go through and read what the responses are and see who is responding. So we have good one, color code things that you write, agenda for the day or the week, keep it consistent. That's the biggest thing that we've found, is really keep it consistent. Include recorded instructions. Let's see, use accessibility checkers. Yes, for sure. You definitely need to use accessibility checkers for ADA guidelines, and label the pictures with short captions. Oh, great. All right, and then one other feature that Quizzes has is it has a quick poll. This is a good little way to check their exit ticket at the end. How are you feeling about the assignment? Thumbs up, thumbs down. All right. Got some quizzes, folks, possibly out there. So that is my little section of quizzes and some helpful tips. I hope it helps you all. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Heidi. So at this moment, I am going to stop our recording, but I do have a couple more housekeeping things before we completely head out.